have the pleasure to speak with Karith Foster. She's a humorist, she's a speaker, she's an author, and she's a specialist in diversity, wellness, and leadership. So we had a great chat before this interview, and I am already a fan. Our viewers from Inside Conferences will have the pleasure to meet someone really special and the work she does that is so meaningful. So I would love for you to talk a little bit more diversity. What's your take on that theme? And we're going to have a good time here. Okay, thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me, Celina, and what a pleasure to have met you and spoken with you before this. But I appreciate the opportunity to share about the work that I do because my take on diversity is something that I actually call inversity. Because when we look at the word diversity, D-I-V, the prefix, right, it actually is the root word for divide and division. And yet the irony is we're supposed to be bringing people together in the name of diversity, and yet we're not surprised that it's not working the way we've been doing it. So I came up with the term inversity because I still want to honor and acknowledge and have people express and share about all of the wonderful and unique things that make them up, their background, their heritage, their age, their nationality, their language, their identity, but shift the focus from what separates and divides us to what do we have in common, how can we be truly inclusive of one another, but most importantly and powerfully, how can we be introspective, meaning looking inside and understanding your value, your worth, your connection to humanity. Because when you can see those things in yourself, that's when you can then see them in someone else.
Yes, I love this perspective, and the name is very creative also. So you said in our chat that we dictate how other people treat us by how we treat ourselves. So this has to do with diversity also, right?
Without question it does. Because think about it. How many people wake up in the morning, look in the mirror and say, hot damn, I look good. Not so many people, right? So, and we say stuff to ourselves that if anybody dared to say to us, we would be appalled. We'd be like, who raised you? Where did that come from? And yet we say it to ourselves. So if we're not loving ourselves, if we're not taking care of ourselves, how in the world can we love and take care of and honor someone else? And, there's this really great book out there. It's very old, one of the worldwide bestsellers. And there's a line. It says, love your neighbor as yourself. Well, a lot of people aren't loving themselves. And so when we're talking about diversity and inclusion and equity, we're thinking about, how we should be treating other people. Well, how can we get to that place where we're not even treating ourselves well?
In your trajectory and in your life, you have experienced some very difficult times in this matter of, relationship with people that, weren't so respectful to you. Do you have something that happened in your life that made you really own who you are and be so beautiful and so shining as we can see? Maybe, all those years, I'm sure that you are who you are since you were born, but sometimes we don't see ourselves. Did something made you really stand out for that cause?
Absolutely. And I think it's actually a series of events, quite honestly. I grew up in a place that was not very diverse. My family was the only black family in a very, like a 3 or 4 mile radius. I was always the only black person in any of my classes. And while I did not experience problems racially, there was always this feeling of being caught between two worlds, right? Being told I wasn't black enough for some of my black counterparts, not being white, right? And just this feeling of in-betweenness and not knowing my identity. And I realized, I am just Karith. Now, of course, when I became interested in the entertainment world, became amplified because, of course, in television and TV, people like to typecast you. They like to put you into a category because that's what the media and television and movies, they like to do that. And I actually was hired for a job because I was Black. I was helping a former radio and television personality redeem himself. He'd made a pretty unfortunate comment that many deemed racist. And he was fired for it. And when he came back on the air, he wanted to diversify his staff. So I was asked to be part of the cast, which was an amazing opportunity. It was a dream job for me. It was just unfortunate that the person who I was working with had their own issues. They were, they had their own demons and quite honestly just had some issues that they didn't handle in their personal life, but it was reflected in how they treated everyone else. And I was one of the people who received that treatment. And while it did make me doubt my abilities, it made me doubt, who I was for some time. Through that adversity, what I learned was how strong I was. And what I learned was what I was made of, and that no one had the right to dictate how I felt about myself for whatever reason. And that's certainly a message that I like to take, whether it's to students or to adults alike in the workplace. I want to make sure that people understand their value and their worth, and that only you get to dictate that, and no one else can take that from you. But it can be challenging if you don't understand it yourself. And so I'm very grateful for that experience, as tough as it was. And it certainly was challenging, and it was hard while I was going through it. But it's like, going to the gym and working out. I mean, that muscle hurts and it burns, but it's so much stronger afterwards.
Yes, there's a song about that, right? What doesn't kill me makes me stronger. Do you know? Do you sing?
No, but I look like I sing. I look like I can belt it out.
Yes, I know. Yeah, but you're right. We can go to the bottom of the, in Portuguese we say the bottom of the well, fundo do poço. But when we emerge, if we do our homework, yes, and you did, it's even more beautiful. I think that we feel more beautiful. All of us, there's no such a person without problems and without hardships. So the way that we look at those events, and as you said, be grateful. Be grateful for what you experience, because we know that we can emerge stronger and more beautiful and even more happy.
Absolutely. So I wrote a book.
Yes, that's what I want to ask you.
I wrote a book called You Can Be Perfect or You Can Be Happy. And in that book, I'll reference what you just said was, first of all, I wouldn't be here right now doing what I'm doing if I hadn't gone through that hard time. So again, one of the things that I charge people with is to ask, why is this happening for me versus why is this happening to me? And when you do that, one of the gifts that comes from changing those two little words is taking the victimization out of it. Perfect. When something happens to you, there's nothing you can do about it. When something happens for you, there's a lesson in it. And I'm not saying that people ask for horrible things to happen to them, especially children. Like I'm not saying that at all. But what I'm saying is maybe that happened for you so that you could see just how strong you were. It happened for you to turn you into another direction that you were supposed to be going. It happened for you to expose someone for who they really were. So you weren't in that relationship any longer than you needed to be.
Yes, I would talk to her, for like a week, a workshop, just talking.
I do workshops, I do conferences, I do it all.
Yeah. She's authentic. I love that. I think that you are the real deal. You bring to the stage when we saw. How many people were at the audience?
I think about 18,000 people. Yeah, it's a little audience there.
Little audience. So she would go to the stage with that little audience, so natural, so how can I say plena? Now I'm speaking Portuguese. So many interviews that so much. She's a whole and. Talking to us as if we were, having some coffee with you, So this is what we need. We need people that are not, far from us. We need this proximity. We need warmth. We need the heart connection. So I'm very enthusiastic about that. So you were talking to that little amount of people, that very 18,000. And I've heard that public speaking is one of the greatest fears of people here in the U.S. Is it true?
That is what they say. Now, I've been speaking since probably I could walk, before I could walk. And it is a very frightening because, we're seeing other people look at us. We're worried about our insecurities. Oh, do I look okay? Is my voice okay? Am I saying the right things? And now even more so, with the cancel culture we kind of have, that's very prevalent. You don't want to say the wrong thing and have one person get upset and write an email and then you get, never invited back for something. But the idea is, and I shared this with you earlier, my goal was to come with love and speak from that heart-centered energy so that everybody who was here, they felt it. And people took time off away from their families. People spent money. People came to learn and to grow. And so I wanted to equally give that gift. And I received it back. Like I felt it from those 18,000 people. So it's this very symbiotic and reciprocal situation.
And you really accomplished that. We felt that. It's hard for me not to compare this, like the stage, with real life, because I think that one thing that we've talked a lot here in this conference, SHRM 22, is about you, speaking up, you being yourself, you bringing your ideas, standing in your own. So when you are in a meeting or maybe with friends, sometimes in your work environment, especially, you keep things to yourself. You try to be in a safe place, not sharing, not bringing your opinions. How can you relate that experience that you really have and you really are someone that overcame this fear of public speaking, to a smaller environment when people really have the same fear, a fear of speaking and, having their ideas shared?
What I want to say very clearly, and I will say it to camera, is that the fear never goes away. It doesn't, but we control it. And I still get scared. I still get nervous a little bit before, especially before going in front of a crowd that big. But what I understand is that the fear isn't real. There is an acronym for fear. And you can say it two different ways. One is false events appearing real, and the other is false evidence appearing real. And the falseness is what we create in our minds, like all the things that can go wrong, all the negative things people are thinking about us or going to say about us afterwards, all the stuff that we're creating ourselves that isn't even coming to the forefront of anybody else's mind. And what's wild is that it's fear that is really at the root of almost all of the ills that we have in society, right? We are so afraid of one another sometimes. We're afraid of people who don't look like us, who don't think like us, who don't vote like us, who don't love like us. We're afraid of people who, may not like us, so we're not going to like them first.
It's kind of like putting fear. I love that metaphor. Like you're driving a car, you are in command. So you say fear. You sit here on the passenger seat, or maybe back there, the back seat, and I will drive. You're not allowed to, to turn on the radio. You're not allowed to, to set the route. You're going to be there. I know you. I know you appear, but I'm on command.
Yes, absolutely. You nailed it. That's a great analogy. I love it. I love it. And that's the thing. If you're never it never goes away. You never eliminate it, but you learn to control it. And like you said, you learn to tell it to get in the back seat, get in the boot of the car. You don't have a place here. This is my time. And I think if we can all remember again, and this does go back to the messaging in my book, we're human beings. We're fallible. Like, there's no such thing as perfect. There isn't. And yet we strive for it, and it drives us absolutely bonkers. What we can strive for is excellence. Yes. Right? And we can understand that happiness, while it is not a constant, which means we're not supposed to be happy all the time. You're supposed to have bad days too, because how else would you know what the good days are and value them? But happiness is a choice, and we can choose to find happiness and joy everywhere we look. If we choose to, we can.
I find my happy moment right here, right now, talking to you. There's nothing happening, outside of here, because the connection I think is one of the greatest sources of happiness is the relationship, and when we connect, when we exchange our feelings and our thoughts, and we are better than we were before. So thank you so much for your presence here. I really hope that I can take you to Brazil to speak to us, in person, because our viewers here can already have the possibility to get to know you, and maybe you can do like an advertisement piece here right now for them to get to know your work better. Please, the mic is yours.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, I would be so honored to travel to your beautiful country. I think the message is universal, right? The message is about love. It's about respect. It's about honoring all that we are and that we bring to the table. And I can't imagine a more fantastic place than Brazil to share that message and to spread this energy.
We can buy your book at Amazon?
Yes, my book is available on Amazon. It is called You Can Be Perfect or You Can Be Happy. My website is karith.com, Karith. And I'm on social media, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, at Karith Foster. And I'm just so thrilled to have spent this time with you.
Me too.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I hope to see you soon.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's hug.
Oh, yeah.